Welcome to the Stronger, Fitter, Happier podcast. I'm your host Vin, and today we are talking about how you can explain your diet a little better to your children. Now, I'm no nutrition expert when it comes to children. I'm not a dietitian, so this is literally my thoughts and what I basically do with my daughter. So we're basically talking about how to explain what you eat and what you put in your mouth in terms of affecting your body and things like that. Like, you may be trying to lose weight right now. So how does that kind of affect you? And how do you explain that in a way that helps your child develop a healthy relationship with food and nutrition and their own body? So if that's of interest to you, check out the rest of this episode. Yeah, it's just basically talking about how we can help our children understand what we're doing in terms of nutrition to affect our body in a positive light, so that they don't have a negative relationship with food and things like that. So what sparked this whole conversation first, and this topic today, was I got a message from someone who's been watching the live streams. I won't mention the name just in case they don't want me to. But yeah, someone who's been watching these lives I've been doing, and they asked me a question about how did they better explain their diet to their child, because they cut out some food groups, like probably not in a restrictive manner, because I think what the person doing is like tracking their calories and things like that. And everyone knows to kind of lose weight, you do have to sacrifice some foods if they are higher in calories. So this person has probably just started to cut out certain things they feel they can't fit into their daily nutrition, and they have started to cut it out, and kind of they wanted their children to see that what they're doing is not unhealthy. They want to explain that tracking calories, how do they show that it's not an unhealthy thing and it's something they're doing in a positive light, because they don't want their child to think that you can't eat things and you can't have this and you can't have that everything in moderation is okay. You just need to find balance with food groups and things. So I basically, not being an expert in nutrition when it comes to children or a dietitian or anything like that, I gave my personal opinion, like what I personally do with my daughter, as opposed to like, this is what you should do, because obviously I'm not an expert in that field when it comes to children's nutrition or anything like that. So this is literally what I do with my child. So just to clear that up. So when I say diet, firstly, what I mean is anything you put in your mouth, whether it's like you're following a ketogenic diet, you're following a low carb diet, whatever you're doing. I mean diet as a general term, not like a restrictive diet or anything like that. So anyway, now that I've got those few things clear, let's move on and go on from there. So what I'm talking about, explaining what I do with how I do it with my daughter is, so for example, tracking calories and weighing food. This was one of the examples the lady in question had. She said, like, how do I show to my child that that's not an unhealthy thing? So I basically said that the way I go about it is an educational point of view. So I say to my daughter, like, this is, I'm weighing my food as a way to basically control the amount of food I'm eating. So I would say something like, I just need to weigh this because I don't want to overeat in this meal. I just want to know how much I should be having in terms of a portion for my body, so that I'm not overeating. So rather than saying it's because I can't eat this much, or I can't, have a certain amount of food, or I can't eat too much because I'm trying to lose weight, or that sort of thing. And even though that doesn't sound that negative, it can be taken as like, oh, if you eat too much, or if I don't weigh my food, or I don't control my portions, I'll gain weight. So rather than attributing it to that fact, I just put it to me and a personal thing as my body. Like, I'm weighing my food or tracking my calories or monitoring my calories as a way to make sure I eat the right amount for myself and I don't overeat. And then I personally don't go the whole weight loss route. I won't talk about like, because I'm trying to change my body, or I don't like how I look, or anything like that. I would simply say, because it's healthy to eat and a right amount of food, as opposed to like talking about weight. Because as an adult, I can say, losing weight can make you become healthier. A child may think that just people who are skinny are healthy, and that's obviously not true. You have to kind of be very careful in terms of what you say around weight loss, because you don't want someone to think that someone who's a little bit like carrying a bit more body fat or having body fat is unhealthy. That's not what we're trying to say when we're saying, losing a bit of weight. And you may simply be a healthy weight and you want to just look lean. And that doesn't mean you're going to become healthier. You're just looking leaner. And that's a personal preference. So it's really important to clarify that you're not, that's a point that you're trying to make. Another thing I do when it comes to like food choices, especially around cutting foods out, quite clearly as an adult, you know that you can't eat loads and loads of cake, because it's not good for you. And you may go, like to someone, you may say to an adult, I'm trying to lose weight right now, I'm on a diet, so don't want that cake. Say that to your child, it may come across a bit negatively around, you don't eat that, or you don't eat this, and that's not good for you, and you shouldn't eat that. Rather than saying those words, you could potentially go down the route that I go, and it's going that I usually say things like, oh, I've eaten enough food today, or I'm trying to save on calories so I could eat something else. I'll say something like, I'm trying to kind of save myself for food later in the day, or I've eaten enough already, so I don't want to have that sort of thing, rather than going, that's not something I should be eating because it's going to make me gain weight. So it cuts the whole weight loss thing out of it, and it kind of promotes the whole idea of finding balance with nutrition. So like, it's basically teaching a child to manage calories without them tracking their food intake and recording the amount of calories they eat. So if your child basically has gone, oh, I ate cake earlier, or I ate something that was quite high in calories, or processed food, because those words are fine. You could go, they may think, oh, I'll have something a bit healthier for me. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can go like, there's nothing wrong with cake. You have to have it in moderation, but it's something that's a bit unhealthier. It's higher in sugar. It doesn't have as much nutrients in terms of like vitamins and minerals and things that make you strong. So I'm not going to have it right now. I'm only going to have a small amount, and I'm going to have more of this other food. So for example, my daughter loves to have an ice lolly when it's hot outside after her nap later on in the afternoon. She comes down, first thing she'll do is go in the kitchen and say, can I have an ice lolly? I don't restrict her unless she's had something like that already earlier in the day, like something sugary, some processed food, or something high in calories. Even though the ice lollies are like, the ones that we get are like mini milks, so they're not high in calories, but we're just trying to get her to eat more natural, unprocessed sources of food. So we'll say things like, so we'll say something like, along with the ice lolly, why don't you have a piece of fruit? Because you have to have a varied diet, lots of colours. Things like fruit and stuff have fibre, help you go toilet. They have vitamins and minerals, whereas the ice lolly tastes great, but it doesn't have the things that make you strong and healthy. And then that's the way we kind of help her to eat, a varied sort of diet without forcing it. And the other thing we do is, you do this with yourself anyway. Like, you give yourself choices of foods that are healthy for you. So if you're someone who eats flexibly rather than like hard rules, you'll probably go with the idea of like, as long as it fits your calories, you can eat what you want to a certain extent, as long as it supports your health goals as well as your body goals. So you have that flexible approach with yourself. So the way you do this with your children is like, you could just give them options of food. So foods that, like, when it comes to like a snack for my daughter, I'll only offer her things that I know that I want her to eat. So I'll be like, oh, why don't you pick from one of these pieces of fruit, or this nutritious bar, or something like that. Like, rather than going, oh, if she says I want a chocolate, it won't be, we may say something like, oh, you've already had something like this earlier, why don't you have this as a snack? Or having too much of that is not necessarily good for you. why don't we have one of these options instead? And it works quite well. Maybe she's quite young, so it works well right now. Maybe as they get older, it may not. But you have to remember, with the way you speak to your children about food, the kind of relationships you build with them really impacts them later in life. Like, for example, for me, like, you know, we, as Asian kids, as an Asian child growing up with Asian parents, I was made to finish all the food on my plate. There was no food wastage. And it's probably not just that reason, but now, like, I struggle to just eat till I'm satisfied. Even if I put something on my plate, I feel like I have to finish it. I'm sure a lot of people will resonate with this. Like, if there's food in front of you, feel like you have to eat it, because as a child, you were probably taught to eat quickly, don't take too long, don't talk, don't mess around at the dinner table, you know, finish all the food on your plate. And that sort of thing, like, you know, these things were taught to you, that this makes you big and this makes you strong and this makes you blah, blah, blah. And we know now that, like, eating really quickly is not a good thing. It's a good thing for your parents because they can then clear the table, but it's not good for you as a person, because it can spark you to overeat and not feel full. So it's like, we need to kind of break that cycle of behavior of teaching our children negative, like having negative relationships with food. So it's really important that we talk about what we're doing, even if we are trying to lose weight and trying to change our bodies, in a positive light as opposed to a negative one. Hopefully, like, you guys kind of agree with me there, and I've not lost your attention just yet. So just gonna go onto Instagram. I've had something pop up as a question, or just a comment saying, we do the same, eat your salads, veg, then you can have desserts. This is saying to teenagers now at 13. Yeah, it's just a case of, like, building it in a positive light. And I try not to even go down that route of going, eat your this and then you can have a dessert, because then it kind of creates a reward behavior. So I try and go down the route of, why don't you have some more of this, like, if it is some vegetables or something, why don't you have some more of the vegetables and then wait a little bit and see if you're full or you're not. And if you're not full and you still feel like you want some more food, then maybe you can have a dessert after, even though I'm going to give the dessert anyway, because I know how much portion she's had. But it's to encourage that, rather than going, oh, like, you know, eat your vegetables and you get a reward. And I know you didn't say that you do it like that, but it's, I know you're trying to promote it as an encouraging thing, as, like, you know, when you do, your children are a bit older, so you can explain it to them in that way, in terms of going, you know, you have to find balance in a diet. Like, you have to eat good food that support your health and stuff, as well as foods that just taste great and maybe don't have such a contributing factor to your health and benefits in that way, and they're just more about taste. You could talk to a teenager in that way, but I can't really explain that to a toddler. So with a toddler, I have to be a bit more sneaky and go, just try and encourage her to eat her vegetables, and then, you know, just having something sweeter after. And the type of sweets that we do anyway is basically like sorbets and stuff like that we make at home, and it's just blended fruit or fruit on its own afterwards. It's or like a yogurt that's flavored with fruit, as opposed to like like a chocolate cake. I'm sure that will change as my daughter gets older and she wants more food like that our friends are eating, or foods that she sees on TV and that sort of thing. But yeah, I guess trying to create good relationships with food from an early age is really important. And it's not too late if your children are older as well. It's about more, it's more about how you demonstrate something as opposed to telling them. For example, like, I think the person who messaged me had was about chapatis. So she's not eating like chapatis at the moment. And she doesn't mind her kids eating chapatis. So how do you kind of, the behavior that she's modeling is that you shouldn't eat chapatis. But that's only if she says chapatis causes to gain weight, or bread is bad, or you shouldn't eat carbs. If she says things like that, then yeah, her children would be fearful or go the other way and go, I'm going to eat it because you're telling me not to. So the better way to go down in that route would be to go, I'm choosing not to eat chapatis right now because I am trying to manage the amount of calories I want to consume, or I don't fancy them. I prefer to eat salads or something else because it's more filling, more substantial, and I'm getting more nutrients and vegetables and minerals and fiber and that sort of thing, and explaining it in a bit more of a positive way. And that is the real reason. And that is like more of a reason to cut out like kind of chapatis, because for density of one chapati, let's say you get 30 grams of carbs depending on the size of the chapati, and you had, I don't know, lots of vegetables and like a vegetable rice instead, because you've already got carbohydrates on the plate. So you could explain that, say, this food is my energy food that is giving me my carbs, so I don't need another one. But you guys are growing and you need more energy than I do. Your metabolism is a bit faster. You burn more calories in the day than I do. So you need that source of food. And it's explaining it in that way and going down the educational route as opposed to the one that, carbs are bad, but you still need them. Or you should eat them. And then because it makes them go, are carbs bad? Like, should I be eating chapati? Should I not? Should I eat bread? Should I not? It causes a lot of confusion around food. So it's really important that you stay positive and you educate yourself, and then you can educate your children. And then the way you kind of approach your diet is positive for yourself and also positive for your kids. Hopefully that makes sense. So I got one more comment come up. Let me just, on Facebook. So your mum is saying that you were very slow eater. That's why she used to tell you to hurry up and we'll be late for school. Yeah. So that's my aunt. She lives with me. Or she used to live with me, or I used to live with her. She's saying the reason why parents didn't tell me to hurry up with food wasn't because they were trying to get us to rush our food. It was because I was a slow eater. And they are right. I was a very, very slow eater. But that's not a bad thing. So you shouldn't have rushed me. Should have let me eat at my own pace. Anyways. So I've kind of said what I had to say with everything I was talking about. Hopefully you found today's live stream a useful one. I'm going to be shooting off. I hope you found that useful. Take care, guys. Over and out.